I'm Sandra Billick. I'm from Medina Township, and to my understanding, the reason is because Medina Township is concerned because they feel that the Brunswick Forum got hostile. It did not. The actual forum was very calm. People were concerned. It was not hostile in the least. I was told that the reason for taking Mary Lynn off is because of her affiliation with Gasland.
You have a community group, is that?
I willingly offered to give up my spot, you know, so that she could speak, but I guess that fell on deaf ears. So.
And when we pulled in, can you tell me about how shocked you were at the police presence that was here?
I already knew
You guys formed around this particular issue?
So I was not shocked. But I learned of that yesterday, and I was a little upset.
Who told you?
Robin Gray.
What did she say about?
She said there was going to be police here. They were going to have a lot of police here. It was because they don't want the crowd to get hostile, like it happened in Brunswick.
But it didn't get hostile in Brunswick.
Not at all.
Well, that is very interesting.
And as a matter of fact, anybody can watch the Brunswick area television. It was televised. See for yourself. I went through this whole same thing with my county commissioners who claimed that the crowd was hostile and that State Rep Dave Hall was ambushed and that he could not answer questions because he drove through a snowstorm and was distraught.
Why should they exempt her from our panel if she's affiliated with Gasland? Why?
And I'm affiliated. I'm not formally affiliated with Gasland. I mean, you know, I'm not I produce Coal Country. Josh Fox produced Gasland. There are now how many police in this room? 4 police in this room. That is just absolutely.
This is to put it on the vote to ban hydrofracking. This is the township and this is the county. Hi, how are you? Good.
Sandra said she'd be willing to give up her spot for this field. But yeah, okay, just bring the sheriff in.
I get to speak now. Isn't that charming of them?
One of the things about a month and a half ago, we said we wanted to do a forum on fracking. And a lot of that had to do with things I've heard in the community. I have friends on both sides. I have friends that are in the industry. I have friends that are environmentalists. I have spoken to some of the speakers. I've asked them to not engage the audience directly. And the reason is we have a large group. We have a lot of people with a lot of different opinions. And we're trying to stay as much to the facts as possible.
My name is Rhonda Rita, and I have proudly been in the oil and gas business now for almost 25 years. And if you look at most of us that are employed in the oil and gas industry, think about what our job really is. And what our job is to provide energy here in this country so that we can have the lights on in this building, so that we can have the computers running, and so that everyone can probably take some sort of vehicle to be here today. Our oil and gas wells, they operate 365 days a year. And there's not a single person, one of us in the industry, that hasn't missed a kid's birthday or a ball game or a holiday because our wells are operating, again, because we have to provide energy to every citizen here in the state of Ohio. That's what our job is. And so when we kind of talk about those pet peeves, Ron, I kind of like how you opened up with that, because I've got a couple too. Number one, I hate the word fracking, okay? That was not a term that you heard up until about 2 years ago, and especially fracking with a K. Why? Because they thought it would be very cute to make it rhyme with other words. I can tell you that one of the reasons why you see some of the security here tonight is at my request. Because I don't know at what time it became dangerous for me as somebody in the industry to go out and actually educate, and that's all my organization does.
And I find it very offensive, really, for them to talk about security when I had to have state police in riot gear at my premieres, had premiers canceled, have had a shotgun pulled on me, and other death threats lodged at me and others. Josh Fox, who made Gasland, has been harassed. He was arrested at a public hearing. So I hope that we haven't been too offensive to you. Thank you.
So why did we start drilling for oil and gas in the first place? Here's your history lesson. And these slides come from the Library of Congress. It's hard to believe, but 150 years ago, whale oil was still the fuel of choice, even in this part of the country. Okay? And I like this picture down here at the bottom. It's a Vanity Fair cartoon dating back to April 20th, 1861. And it was the whales celebrating the discovery of crude oil. So I don't care what anyone says, the oil and gas industry helped save the whales.
The question here that's much more generalized. The question's about a semi-tanker having fluid in it that crashes and it goes in the yard, and how dangerous is the water that comes out of the fracking sites. I think really the question is, if somebody were to have those, that water on their property, how harmful would it be to their kids or their families? That's the real question.
Well, the only way I can answer that is, since 1953, we have hydraulically fractured 80,000 wells in the state, and we have never had a single case of groundwater contamination, dealing with hydraulic fracturing, or any hydraulic fracturing fluid. So that's a hypothetical question.
Well, no, the question,
and I don't want to get trapped into one of those.
The question's actually, it's not the hypothetical in that regard. It's actually the water that's used for the injection well, for the well itself, right? That's removed. For one, just one well. And we're not talking about the contamination of the groundwater. We're talking about it, let's just hypothetically say, and I'm saying it, I know you want to, if I were to go in there and that water was to get into my property, into my garden, because a tanker spilled, what kind of impact does that have?
Are we talking brine now?
Whatever you remove from the site and put in a tanker.
Again, we produce a lot of brine, salt water, or sometimes it's referred to as oil field waste because Ohio was covered by ocean at one time. I think that everybody will recognize that the United States has come a long way in our environmental laws. Today, and again, House Bill 501, back in the 80s, stated that you can no longer discharge brine into lakes or streams. We knew that it obviously was causing damage. These are good environmental laws. States like Pennsylvania are just now coming into compliance, and again, it gives you an idea of how far advanced Ohio has always been when it comes to our environmental laws. And that's why obviously it was causing maybe some grass to die,
And brine is basically, it's the salt that goes into water. We talk about brackish water, estuarial streams. That's where it meets the salt water, meets the fresh water. And generally what she's talking about is the salt that comes out of it is in the water. And my understanding is what you're saying is the water that's actually being transported. The problem is the salt that's contained in that water as much as the chemicals. Is that what you're telling me? All right, do you have okay. I guess so.
I wouldn't know what to tell you if that happened because the natural gas corporations don't disclose all the chemicals they use to any of us. So I don't know what all kinds of chemicals would be included in that because to my knowledge that's not given to people when they come onto your land. So I don't know what that would be.
And on the water side, again on the recycling, what you're talking about is the flow back. And that is on the hydraulic fracturing. Separate from that is the produced water that naturally comes out of the ground, which is the brine or salt water. We are not yet there. Someday, maybe someone will like bottled salt water. We're not there yet. But I think as technology changes, we will be able to somehow be able to process that. And I think we're moving that way in so many different things. There's two different waters.
This may seem like a smart aleck question, but if it's just small salt water, how come I can't dump it in the middle of the Atlantic?
Yeah. Because it has radiation in it.
I mean, I'm asking a serious question.
I don't know, maybe you could. I know it's, and I'm not a chemist, and I think I would probably defer that because I know that regular salt water in the ocean. I mean, keep in mind, this has been underground. There's different things that have long over time been combined in that. So you're not talking apples to apples.
That answers the question. It's not simply just solar, and that's just to go through. In any geological formation, you have a lot of other chemicals and properties, and
I came in here with absolutely no one side or the other, had no idea, just a resident of Medina. Obviously, it's been a topic lately. I really think that there needs to be a win-win situation. If he's out $2 million, so what? That's his $2 million because he bought that land. How about the citizens of Medina County? Can't we all get a bit of that? I didn't buy that land. I don't have a part of that land, but I consume gas. I consume just like the rest of us. I can't produce off of my land, as she said. I can't. But if it's going to affect my kids, my family, is he going to use the $2 million to fix the bridge? Is he going to use his cash? Hold on. Is he going to use any of that money to fix any of the damage that may happen? I don't know. It may not. It might all go fine.
To go through, and actually, if you look at some of the bills that are passed, the whole idea of the severance tax is to put money aside for that type of contingency.
How hard is it to get that?
No. I don't know the answer to that. There may be a barrier to it.
There's pools all over Ohio with cash that you can't get your hands on.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's not the case, but what I'm saying is that's the purpose of that tax. What I also will tell you is I don't ever foresee Ohio passing a 7.5% severance tax. I don't think it's going to pass.
Talking about fighting big business. Jobs are going to come here, not from Louisiana, not from Mississippi, not from Pennsylvania. Actual Ohio drillers.
And I think we've answered a lot of these questions. Those questions I think we've answered. Not many.
I have a friend from Ohio who went to West Virginia.
That's what I'm saying, not many.
Why aren't they hiring West Virginia guys?
But all my point is, and what I don't want, and I understand, the story obviously is personal, and you are objecting, and I think that that's, great. I think it's outside the scope of what I'm trying to do here today. It is. What I'm trying to do is, you can object, and you can vote against it, you can meet up with Sandra afterward, and Sandra, I'm sure, will be willing to take that energy and focus it somewhere else. The idea here was to inform and educate, and that's what we try to do. And if you have an opinion when you leave here, I'm sure if you want to support the fracking industry, Mark and Rhonda are over there, and I'm sure if you want to get on the board and fight the fracking industry, that Sandra and them are over here, and they'll be more than willing to take your name and number to get with them.
Yep.
All right?
We all get on the same page. I don't want to fight anybody.
Because that's just not the way we work. Hey, when have you ever seen 100% vote in the United States when we're never doing anything?
Why can't we work that way?
I mean, that's
If it's not win-win, why do
It
it?
doesn't work that way.
If somebody loses, why do it? Just one family loses. It's wrong.